actually, it's kind of interesting. I see both sides kind of imply that.
Hmm.
So the people who are against the vaccine are dumb for not trusting science, and the people who are for the vaccine are called dumb for trusting science, the scientific
Nobody
institution.
wins. Yeah.
And they both kind of have a point. Like, because you can always, it's like, is the
Yeah.
glass half full or half empty? Because you can always look at like science from a perspective of certain individuals that don't represent, perhaps are not greatest leaders,
Hmm.
almost like political leaders. There's a lot of, yesterday I went on a whole rant against, well, I said a lot of positive things about Anthony Fauci before I went on a rant against him. Because ultimately, I think he failed as a leader, and I know it's very difficult to be a leader, but I still wanted to hold him accountable for that, as a great communicator of science and as a great leader.
What do you think he didn't do right? I'm curious.
Uh, so the core of the problem is the several characteristics of the way he was communicating to the public. So one is the general inauthenticity. Uh, Two is a thing that it's very hard to put into words, but there's certain ways of speaking to people that sounds like you're hiding something from them.
Mm.
That sounds like you're full of shit. That's the authenticity piece. Like, it sounds like you're not really speaking to the full truth
Hmm.
of what you know, and that you did some shady shit in your past that you're trying to hide. So that's a way of communicating that I think the internet and people in general are becoming much better at
Yeah,
detecting.
it's like you said, they're good BS
Yeah,
detectors.
good BS detectors. But contributing to that is
Mm.
speaking from authority,
Yeah.
speaking with authority and confidence where neither is deserved. So, first of all, nobody's an authority on this new virus, right? We're facing a deadly pandemic, and especially in the early stages, it was unclear how deadly it would be. It was unclear, probably still unclear fully how it's transmitted, the full dynamics of the virus, the full the full understanding of which solutions work and not,
Hmm.
how well masks of different kinds work, how easy or difficult it is to create tests, how many months or years it's going to take to create a vaccine, how well in history or currently do quarantine methods or lockdown methods work. How, what are the different data mechanisms that are like data collection mechanisms that are being implemented? What are the clear plans they need to happen? What the epidemiology that's happening? What is the uncertainty around that? Um, then there's the geopolitical stuff with China. You
Hmm.
know, like what uh, I personally believe there should have been much more openness about the origins of the virus, whether it leaked from a lab or not. I think communicating that you're open to these ideas is actually the way to get people to trust you. That you're legitimately open to ideas that are very unpleasant, that go against the mainstream. Showing that openness is going to get people to trust you when you finally decrease the variance and your uncertainty, like decrease the uncertainty and we still have a lot of uncertainty, but this is the best course of action. Vaccines still have a lot of uncertainty around them. mRNA is a new technology, but we have increasing amounts of data, and here's the data sources, and like laying them out in a very clear way of this is the best course of action that we have now. We don't know if it's the perfect course of action, but it's by far the best course of action. And that would come from a leader that has earned the capital of trust from people.
I mean, I think in recent history, the worst pandemic is 1918 flu,
Yeah.
right? But that's mainly because we didn't know what to do. We didn't have many tools at our disposal.
And that was tied up with World War One.
That's right. That's right.
So the leadership there, I mean,
But I don't know what is a lot of deaths, right? And any one person is someone's family. So to them, it's a lot, right?
But that logic, we don't apply that logic generally because there's
I
a lot of
understand.
people suffering and dying throughout the world, and we turn the other way
Of
all the
course.
time, and that's the story of history. So saying you all of a sudden,
What bothers me, though, I mean, personally, I don't like anyone dying anywhere, but, and especially considering what technology we're able to muster, yet we still kill each other. It's just a dichotomy to me.
yeah, but I mean, this is the what is it, Paul Farmer? There's these great stories. I mean, that's the that's the burden of being in healthcare, of being a doctor, is you have to help. You can't help but help a person in front of you who's
Sure,
hurting,
sure.
but you also are burdened by the knowledge that you helping them, you spending money and effort and time on them means you're not going to help others, and you cannot possibly allocate that amount of time to everybody. So you're choosing which
Mm,
person lives and which person dies.
sure.
And you're doing so, the reason you're helping the person in front of you is because they're in front of you. And so the reason right now we care a lot about COVID is because the eye of the world has turned to COVID, but we're not seeing all the other atrocities going on in the world. They're not necessarily related to deaths; they're related to suffering, human suffering, which you could argue is worse than death. Prolonged suffering,
Yeah, of course.
so
Right.
there's all of these questions, and the fundamental question here is: are we overreacting to COVID in our policies? So this is the when we turn our eye and care about this particular thing and not other things, are we dismissing the pain that business owners who've lost their businesses are going to feel? And then talking about long COVID,
Mm,
the long-term effects, economic effects on the millions of people that suffer financially, but also suffer from their dreams being completely collapsed. So a lot of people gain meaning from work. And if you take away that work, there's anger that can be born, there's pain. And so what does that lead to? That can lead to the rising up of charismatic leaders that channel that anger towards destructive things.
mhm.
That's been done throughout history. So like you have to balance that with the policies that you have in COVID. And then, I mean, very much my main opposition to Fauci is not on the details, but the final result, which is I just observe that there's a significant decrease in trust in science as a not the institution, but the very sort of mechanisms of science. I think science is both beautiful and powerful, and the reason why we have so many amazing things and such a high quality of life.
Mhm.
And distrust in that. The thing we need now to get out of all the troubles we're in, continue getting out of the troubles we're in, is science, the scientific process, broadly defined, like innovation, technological innovation, scientific innovation, all of that. Distrust in that totally the wrong thing we need. And so anybody who gets in, who causes a distrust in science, to me, um, uh, you know,
Mm,
carries the responsibility of that, and should be in because the response, I mean, should be fired, should be, or at least openly have to carry the burden of that, of having caused of that kind of level of mistrust. Now, it's maybe unfair to place it on any one individual, but you have to. I think in your podcast you said the buck stops at the top. Like the leaders have
sure.
to
No, no,
carry.
there's a clear leader here. Yes, absolutely.
So even if it's not directly his fault, he has to
Yeah, yeah.
carry the price of that.
Do you think we should, at this point, say, okay, we have vaccines. You can decide whether you take them or not. Let's move forward.
Maybe you can help me understand this, because it seems like why is that not the right solution? Completely open society. The
Mhm.
vaccines, at least in the United States, as I understand, are widely available. So this is the American way. You have the decision to make. If you
Mhm.
have conditions that make you worried to get COVID and go to the hospital, then you should get vaccinated, because here's the data that shows that it's much less likely for you to die
Right.
If you get vaccinated, if you don't want to get vaccinated because you're worried about long-term effects of vaccine, that you don't have to, but then you suffer the consequences of that, and that's it.
So here's what I think is driving. I think it's all about kids
Right.
because they're going to go back to school in the fall, and many of them can't be vaccinated. Right. So if they get infected, they do have less frequency of disease, but it's not zero. They do get sick, and they can have long-term consequences. And at that age, it would be a shame, right? And it's not even their choice. They can't decide to get vaccinated or not because they can't have access to it. So I think that's what would drive my efforts to try and get more people, at least in schools, vaccinated. But I might be wrong. It may not be that.